Look, Tucker is scared about the Jones texts. Tucker Carlson shitting himself, scared that Alex Jones' text may leak. A source close to the Fox News told Confider. So it wasn't said by Tucker Carlson. It was said by like an anonymous source. Yeah, we'll see. By the way, I feel like I've been saying this for a long time, or like a version of this basically, but like, hey, turns out Alex Jones, the guy who everyone was writing off as like the goofy goobster, no one takes him seriously dude, is actually connected to like half of the entire American conservative political network. It's almost like his brand of insane conspiracism is just one of many entry points into fascism, which they're all contributing to. There's no, like, real difference here. It's just an aesthetic styling. Alex Jones sent nudes of his wife to Roger Stone, based. Will Trump eviscerate the FBI if reelected? Listen, all I'm saying is, okay, you know all the conspiracy theories about the CIA killing, FDR? Wait, not FDR. JFK? There we go. Sorry. Three-letter acronym right there, you know. All I'm saying is, if Trump ever tries to properly go after the FBI, what do you guys think the odds are of just like media blackout for 12 hours? When it gets back on, Donald Trump has fallen down a staircase. You know? Oh, we're so sorry. Want to enable the search warrant though? On Mar-a-Lago? Trump has done so much shit. There are probably like 3 or 4 things you could get, like the feds could have gotten a search warrant on. Though in this case, it seemed to have been the suspicion that he was hoarding classified information, which it seems he was. You wouldn't even need to have him fall down a whole flight of stairs. Trump is tall and fat and old. He could fall down like 3 steps. Did the CIA actually kill JFK? Realistically, probably not, fun as the conspiracy theory is. That being said, I think it's reasonable to assume that there were probably powerful people in the CIA who really wanted to kill JFK. You know, it's one of those like cock-up cascade situations where a lot of stuff happens all at once, and when the dust falls and settles, you don't really know who was responsible, maybe, kind of, you know? I don't think the CIA did it, but would they have done it? Maybe. A little bit, maybe. What did JFK even do to be hated by the feds? Oh, let's not get too diverged. He had a beef with the CIA's Bay of Pigs and talked about dismantling it, and it's a whole thing. And I'm not as well versed on the conspiracy theories as a lot of people. Back on tangent then, is it just me, or is the right just hard collapsing the US? No. None of this means anything until they're behind bars or beneath the dirt. It's that simple. They can pay all the fines they want. They can be humiliated all they want. Fascists do not need your approval or that much money to do their coups. They are backed by billionaires. The Koch brothers are billionaires. Like all this, you know, 50 million from Alex Jones. It doesn't. None of it means anything until the hammer gets brought down. You know, don't fall into a sense of complacency where it's like, you know, oh, they're falling apart. Well, I mean, not really. Like, materially, nothing has changed. They enjoy the same level of support from their own base as before, possibly a greater level because they interpret any find out following the fuck around portion as like a validation of their, you know, sense of persecution. So they're only getting more feisty. Does Alex Jones even believe what he said himself? Alex Jones doesn't believe in truth. It's an epistemic, you know, principle that he doesn't hold. I don't think he believes in the concept of truth. Yeah, he's the conservative stereotype of a postmodernist. He does believe in money. That's true. I really do think Alex Jones is a psyop. Well, he's doing a pretty bad job as a psyop then, considering how many people he's brought over to the right. He's like an enormously powerful, like the largest conspiracy monger for conservatism in the entire country. If he's a psyop, then it didn't fucking work. He's not like, well, that actually is a pretty standard liberal, you know, presumption that you can have a conservative so wacky that conservatives won't actually believe in them and they'll look ridiculous, like with Trump. But they're wrong every time. There's no limit to how wacky these people can get. Do you know how wacky the Nazis were? Nazis were all wacky guys. They were all silly billies. Okay? You guys have no idea. Nazis would wake up every single morning, like snort 2 grams of cocaine, do some meth, stare in the mirror at like a zit that appeared in their forehead, then declare that zit the product of Jewish witchcraft, and like fire a howitzer shell into a neighboring building because that's the only place close enough that the Jewish mind rays could have reached him while he was sleeping. They were completely insane. The only reason Nazi Germany didn't collapse earlier was because their transition to fascism was fast enough that a lot of their basic bureaucratic procedures were operated by people who were part of the Weimar Republic beforehand. You know, like basic, like, turncoats who, you know, sided with the Nazis as the winds blew. If Nazi Germany had been in control 100% by Nazi loyalists, the people who really pushed that shit, like, from top to bottom, they wouldn't have even been able to do the Holocaust. They would have killed themselves beforehand. They're insane. They're completely insane. Fascism is and always has been about the most psychotic political agents weaponizing the relative competence of the people who know they'll be shot if they disagree. Because fascists themselves are not particularly competent at, like, anything they do. Trump hired Rudy Giuliani to represent him against the FBI, apparently. Breaking, Trump retains Rudy Giuliani to challenge FBI raid all the way up to the Supreme Court yard by... Excuse me, has he not been disbarred yet? He's only been disbarred in New York, right? He would be representing in Florida for the Mar-a-Lago thing. Serious disagree, Vosh. Pinochet and Franco reigned for decades. Kind of a liberal take, too. Okay, I would struggle to call anything Pinochet presided over as functioning, for one. As for Franco, I think his government took on a different character than Nazi tier fascism. Like, I don't think they were really on the same, like, level in terms of the brain fuckedness. A lot of fascist Spain was, I mean, it wasn't like a top-down thing, you know? Like, a lot of it is, like, the logistical and bureaucratic stuff is propped up by the non-true believer types. It has to be. Because, fascists don't really believe in truth. They can't be engineers. Have you seen, well, There's Your Problem podcast just put out an episode on this on their Patreon literally today. This is why fascists can't be engineers. Fascists can put guns to the temples of engineers and tell the engineers to build something, but the fascists themselves can't be engineers because fascists don't believe in truth. You need to believe in truth and empiricism to be an engineer because, you know, 1 + 1 can equal 3 when you're giving a speech, but it can't when you're drawing up design plans. Which is why, if you take a look at, like, the war machine of Nazi Germany, right? I mean, you had competent engineers, sure, but the ideologues of the Nazi parties were constantly f***ing up everything for the actual engineers, like, with their over-designing and the crazy bullshit they wanted to build. The whole nuclear weapons program, the entirety of Einstein's, you know, like, scientific and contributions to the world being dismissed as Jewish science. What was, like, general relativity is Jewish science? Jesus. Vosh, you have no idea how many conservatives are in the industry? I'm not talking about conservatives. I'm talking about true blue fascists. Like Alex Jones types. Like, I'm talking about, like, the Nazi fascist, like the real ideologues. Not just fascism in terms of who they support, but, like, the actual true believers. I guess I should, okay, maybe I should say ideological fascists, right? Like, there's a difference between a fascist in the sense that you're some, like, dipshit Republican voter who supports fascist politicians, and an ideological fascist who has fully internalized the non-logic of fascist ideology. Because you can support fascists without internalizing the ideology of fascism in its entirety. Yeah. Sort of ideological fascism versus consequential fascism. The Nazis had their own nuclear program? Yeah, how did that go? Read into it, seriously. They were hampered. Their scientific processes were consistently hampered by the ideological biases of the Nazi party. The Soviets did this too, with Lysenkoism. Vosh, you don't think the Koch, Mercers, Bushes, and their aristocratic ilk won't take over the U.S. after democracy ends? Why is the question phrased this way? What do you mean when you say this? I don't know what you mean. The answer is no, though. I don't believe that. The Americans almost did the same thing by barring Oppenheimer because he might have been a communist. That's not the same thing. The same thing would be them barring Oppenheimer and discrediting all of his work because they believed that general relativity and nuclear physics were communist science, and then thinking that it's made up. That's a different degree of delusion. Why can't fascists have background in science? Plenty do. Oh God, please, guys. If you have a problem with what I've said, I run through a lot of stuff on my stream. I need you to take a second and sit down and think about it for a second. I have not at any point said it is impossible for a fascist to have a background in science. I've never made that claim. But if you look through the history of fascist movements, you see consistent rejections of empiricism, which come back to bite fascist governments all the time. True believer, ideological fascists don't really have a strong grip on reality, and it fucks with you if you're trying to do anything that necessitates an understanding of reality, like engineering. It doesn't mean you literally cannot be an engineer while being a fascist. The different fascists have different levels of ideological self-delusion. You know, it varies. Contextually is what you were talking about. Would you separate somebody as fascist as Matt Walsh or Ben Shapiro as not ideologically 100% fascist but as grifters? A critical thing to understand here is that the effects of fascism on anti-empiricism only really coalesce when you're talking about a government level. The Nazis were all not only insane, but reaffirming each other's insanity. You have like 10 Nazis at a meeting, and maybe one of those Nazis would go, ah, yes, okay, the science is good. Just because the scientist was Jewish does not mean the science bad. But then you have 10 of them, and it's like, we cannot use the, and they're screaming about golems and Jewish witchcraft. The problem is, like, they're committed predominantly, to the rhetorical reflection of whatever worldview gives them the greatest power at the moment. It coalesces that interest, which means that their insanity is multiplied tremendously. An individual Nazi, even a ideologically committed one, while still an enemy of empirics, can live in the world, but a group of 10 or 20 will fucking kill themselves. So it's an STD, yes. I said it earlier, Vosh. Umberto Eco, the originator of the 14 Signs of Fascism, also wrote a book about conspiracy theories that actually went into detail about the fact that the Nazis couldn't properly plan the trajectories of the earliest V-2 rockets because they thought the Earth was basically inside out. That's nice. We can see the same phenomenon happening in the Soviet Union. Well, the Soviet Union was fascist, of course, so. I like this one. Object 279. The quad track. Is this meant to be amphibious? All-terrain heavy tank. The odd shape served a special purpose to deflect shock waves from nuclear explosions. Okay. Flying tank? Okay. All right. Okay. This is a space plane. All right. Uh-huh. Well, I guess the thing that distinguishes these from the shit the Nazis planned up is that these actually got built, and a lot of the shit the Nazis planned up never even got built. I like it. Yeah, Nazis with their gigantic mega tank. The origins of Warhammer 40k aesthetics. Vosh, fascist Italy and Spain didn't really have this problem here. Nazism is somewhat unique here. There are varying trends in fascist movements throughout history and in different cultures, but a rejection of empiricism is at least a prevailing element in many of them.